After we passed behind them, we had to cough my face.
All conditions in the lab are miserable. The low temperatures won't kill them. Every breath they take produces a poison they can't.
Carbon dioxide is beginning to build up in the lunar module atmosphere. The canisters that remove carbon dioxide in the lunar module, there were only enough for 2 people. We were 3 of them.
There are spare canisters in the command module. The basic design error renders them useless. The command module carbon dioxide scrubber was square, but the lunar module was round. So we had to rig up a deal that would work, this square deal in this round hole. The crew was faced with suffocation, so engineering came up with the idea of fabricating the valve.
They brought it in. We got down on our hands and knees and they made me build it. And once I had built it, they said, okay, now you know how to build it. Now go tell Jack Slater how to do it. We did it with duct tape, with a piece of plastic, a piece of cardboard, and a little sock. And we plugged it in, and lo and behold, that CO2 level just came down, so it's like, it was great.
As they approach Earth, the crew prepares for one of the most dangerous parts of their mission, re-entry. They need to get back in the command module and jettison the LEM that's kept them alive. We were concerned because this command module had not been powered up for days, and so it had gotten very cold inside. And how was the heat shield going to respond? And is it going to work through the heat of the re-entry? We're not going to be able to do anything about it. And we got to get through the entries. It's the only way to get home. We lost communications. It was what we call blackout due to the ionized atmosphere. The blackout should last 3 minutes. Hello, Aquarius. Hello, Apollo 13, and no response. After 4 minutes, still nothing.
We just had to sit there and listen through all that static, waiting for somebody to say, Houston. And when we finally hit the water, then we knew that we were 100% safe. And then right where they're supposed to land, it was awesome.
Big celebration.
We were all very joyful and all very tired, and there didn't seem to be anything else to say.
Any mission that you can bring a crew back home from is a success. Nine months later, Apollo 14 is racing to the moon. The commander is Alan Shepard, the first American in space. Their destination, Apollo 13's landing site, the From Oral Highlands. Scientists think this region could hold clues from the time the moon was just being formed. The astronauts bring a hand cart to hold 90 pounds of rocks back to the lab. And Alan Shepard even finds time to convert the rock sampler into a golf club. With the success of Apollo 14, NASA plans to expand its lunar explorations with a bold new series of missions. For the new missions, astronauts will spend more time on the lunar surface and bring back heavier payloads of moon rocks.
We wanted to collect enough data so that we could analyze the moon and see what it's made of. What is the structure of the moon? Is it like the Earth? Is it like an asteroid? Is it, what's the structure of the moon?
For more ambitious explorations, they'll have to cover a lot more territory. NASA develops a revolutionary vehicle.
The lunar rover was a very, very creative effort. We knew we wanted a vehicle that could roll along on that very, what seemed like sandy kind of a surface. And it had to be operable by people in suits that were very, very stiff and without a whole lot of mobility.
The lunar rover is a four-wheel drive two-seater and has a top speed of 8 miles per hour. A magnetic compass won't work on the moon, so a computer constantly plots a straight line back to the left.
We had the car to broaden our exploration base. Before the car, we had no ability to walk more than 300 or 400 yards. But with the car, we could cover a radius of about 5 miles.
Apollo 16, John Young, Charlie Duke, and Ken Mattingly blast off into the Florida sky. Young and Duke used the lunar rover to explore an area known as the Descartes Mountains.
We had trained that John Young would be the driver, and I would navigate. see how fast the thing would go downhill.
It was fun riding the rover. It was fun. Bounce ball. Working from the rover, they collect a record 209 pounds of moon rocks.
We could collect a lot more rocks, and we could see a lot of variety of rocks as we journeyed across this landing area that was selected for its geological significance. So it really revolutionized the lunar surface exploration.
Duke and Young drive the rover hard for nearly 17 miles over rugged terrain. Parked at the landing site, it documents Apollo 16 blasting off from the lunar surface. Apollo 17 targets another geologically rich area of the moon. But this will be Project Apollo's final lunar landing. Budget cuts force NASA to scrap 3 more missions already scheduled.
We were disappointed because they canceled 18, 19, and 20. We had the hardware. We had crews picked. And all it was operational money.
NASA wants the last moon mission to be their greatest. The landing site demands the first night launch of the giant Saturn V rocket. On board, Ron Evans is command module pilot. Harrison Schmitt is NASA's first scientist in space. And the commander of Apollo 17 is Gene Cernan, a veteran of Gemini 9 and Apollo 10.
Apollo 17 was a real goal. I knew before we launched that Apollo 17 was going to be the best flight to the moon, and I knew I would be there in the final steps. I knew.
More than 500,000 people come from all over the world to watch the final lunar launch. Apollo 17 is Gene Cernan's second trip to the moon. On Apollo 10, he flew a lander to within 47,000 feet of the lunar surface. This time, he's cleared to land.
I needed to go back to Apollo 17. I wanted to cover the last 47,000 feet. I've been at the moon, folks. I'm not going back again, not to land. And other people will do.
We're looking in the river, going right down the line.
Stand by. 25 feet. Down to. Feel good. 20 feet. Going down to 10 feet. 10 feet. Set contact. Stop push. Hands up. Hey, Houston, the Charger has landed.
Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmidt joined an elite fraternity. Only 12 men have landed on the moon.
As I step off as the surface is toward neutral, we'd like to dedicate these first steps of Apollo 17 to all those who made it possible.
Over the next 3 days, Cernan and Schmidt spend more time walking on the moon than any other astronauts.
I was rolling on the moon one day in a very hot December house. May, that's right. May is the heart of us.
A team of scientists monitors their work.
Hey, there is orange soil. Well, don't move it till I see it. It's all over. Orange. Don't move it till I see it. I started up with my feet. Hey, it is. I can see it from here. It's orange.
Let's think about the two lights, they're not gonna get the constraint anyway, so they gotta leave at a certain time regardless of what we got.
We'd like to leave immediately. Hey. My golly, this time goes fast.
3 years after Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon, Gene Cernan prepares to be the last.
When I crawled up the ladder, I knew I wasn't going to be coming this way again. And I just wanted this to stop the process. I wanted to freeze time. I want to take advantage of this moment.
Okay, 1 minute, Houston. We're 50 seconds now. We're going. Okay, let me get here.
It's only 11 years since Alan Shepard became the first American in space, and John Kennedy challenged the U.S. to go to the moon. Now, Apollo 17 is the end of an era.
It's like a breaking off a love affair. You've had a marvelous time. But now, it's time to bring that relationship to an end.
3, 2, 1. Houston. Thanks, you're good. Thanks, Doc. Houston, come here. Yeah, that's right.
Cernan and Schmidt start the long journey home. The camera on the rover will transmit pictures back to Earth for another 27 hours. The final images from man's last trip to the moon. Having explored the lunar surface, NASA shifts gears to learn to live long-term in space.
You know, engineers want to do something different. They said, hey, we've been there, we've done that, and let's do something else.
We prove to ourselves that we can go somewhere and survive. So now the next step's gonna be, let's figure it out.
If we're ever going to go to Mars, we've got to understand what happens to humans and machinery when they spend a year or two in space.
Dad, go.
NASA develops a radical new spacecraft
I'm gonna watch
using a
this.
Saturn V rocket left over from the scrubbed Apollo missions.
It was a good use of money we had to develop Skylab. It was a space station.
The big insight was that you could use the third stage of the great big Saturn V rocket as a habitable place to live.
The commander of Skylab's first crew is Pete Conrad, who flew 2 Gemini missions and Apollo 12. Rookie Paul Weitz is the pilot. And another rookie, Joseph Kerwin, is the science pilot.
We could stuff it with experiments. We could put the food and water up there for 3 missions. We could do it all, and it was great.
Skylab and crews will launch on separate rockets.
This beautiful big Saturn V with the workshop on it was to launch on May 14th, and it would get into the correct orbit. The next day we would launch.
Not since Gemini 6 and 7 has NASA attempted 2 launches so close together.
right into the sky as far as we could see. It was on its way successfully.
Pretty soon, the news from Mission Control began to get bad. There had been a G-shock, sudden acceleration on the way up. They don't know what caused it.
Skylab space station now in orbit. Still some doubt in the mind of flight controllers here at Mission Control as to whether the main solar panels on the workshop have indeed deployed.
One of them didn't respond at all. The other one just a trickle of current that they could see.
The planned 28-day mission was not possible without the workshop main solar panels.
Meanwhile, the temperatures both outside and inside of the workshop began to rise. We have insufficient electrical power, we have temperature out of control. It looks like the heat shield is working.
People in Mission Control were about ready to give up.
The second response 5 minutes later was, come on, we're engineers, let's get to work on this thing and see what we can do.
Skylab, the biggest problem is heat from the sun. Engineers designed a giant parasol.
You're not going to get to understand the problem. They didn't have to design the hardware. They had to build the hardware. They had to test the hardware, package it for flight, and get it to the spacecraft.
After a 10-day delay, Irwin, Conrad, and Weitz finally launch NASA's first program in space.
T-minus 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, engine sequence start, 2, 1, 0. We have launch commitment, we have liftoff. Clock is running, and clear the tower.
8 hours after launch, the rendezvous with Skylab and see the damage close up.
Houston is now controlling.
The crew has to enter Skylab to repair it. 270 miles above the Earth. Traveling at more than 17,000 miles an hour. Pete Conrad
Ay, buonasera.